So the other day I had a very good chat with Phil from the Amish Inquisition podcast, and one of the things that came up in the chat was this term NPC, non-player character, and Phil's feeling is that we shouldn't really use this term because he felt it was falling into a divide and rule trap that was being set for us by the big club. In terms, I think he was getting at like othering, splitting people up according to all sorts of things, like whether they took part in a medical experiment or not. And this NPC, I suppose, is like it's being used as a term of abuse. So what I'm going to do is, and then another thing that happened that was very interesting was that one viewer in particular picked up on what Phil said, and also kind of my response to it, and quoted a verse from the Bible, which I'll come to in a minute. Again, for those people that immediately get triggered by me talking about the Bible, even just mentioning the word the Bible or the phrase the Bible, they just get triggered. You might want to ask yourself why that is, because I think you might have a problem that you need to sort out there if you're getting triggered, rather than just immediately switching this YouTube video off. Anyway, my kind of immediate reaction to what Phil said is that I've never really referred. I've never actually called an NPC an NPC. I don't think I've ever done that. So, and I don't think that would be particularly kind of good to do that, because they probably wouldn't even know what I was referring to anyway. It would be like talking Finnish to I don't know, somebody from Britain that doesn't understand Finnish. It's just a word that lies just outside their sphere of knowledge. It'd be just pointless, really. They won't even know what I'm talking about. The other side of things, of course, is that I believe that we should always tell the truth, and I think the phrase NPC, non-player character, is actually pretty accurate, because in my opinion, there are many people out there who they don't think for themselves. All they do is just listen to what the sound bites that are being pumped out by the likes of BBC Radio 4 Today, and then they just have this lexicon of terms that they just puke out, that have been pre-programmed into their vocabulary. So they don't really do any thinking at all. They just act as what I call a repeater station. Now, the verse that was mentioned from the Bible was... So it comes from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 12. And I'm just going to pick it up from verse 51. So it says, this is Jesus speaking, and Jesus says, "Do you suppose I came to establish peace on earth? No, indeed, I have come to bring division. For from now on, 5 members of a family will be divided, 3 against 2, and 2 against 3. Father against son, and son against father, mother against daughter, and daughter against mother, mother against son's wife, and son's wife against her mother-in-law." So somebody mentioned this verse from the Bible, and it sort of goes against what we've been programmed to think, that division are always bad things, whereas Jesus is actually saying the direct opposite. So the big question is, who brings division? So we could use loads of examples, but if we just think about the events that happened between 2020 and 2022 surrounding the live action role play, let's play doctors and nurses, and the medical experiment, we were all given a choice about how to respond to this external circumstance that, well, we didn't decide that it was going to happen. It happened, and but our autonomy was about how we're going to respond to this. So it was about really which master were we going to serve? Were we going to serve and do what was good, what we knew to be good, in line with natural law and the Ten Commandments? Or were we going to serve, rather than God, were we going to serve Satan instead and choose to go along with things that were just downright evil, such as, I have to be careful here, let's call them L-downs and, the all of that, and all of the bad things that happened. So the division between people who did what they were told to do and complied with evil and those that not, that kind of division, who made the division? Well, the answer is it was us. We kind of sifted and sorted ourselves into two distinct groups. We're human beings that were created in the image of God. But that's kind of the only thing really we have in common, because we also have a spirit and we also have a soul. We were born with free will, and some human beings use their free will to embrace good, think about natural law and the Ten Commandments, and then other people reject that and they go with what Satan offers, which is maybe the chance of earning extra money, status. I always remember a guy that I used to work with. He took on a job, got a promotion out of it, out of complying with DIVIC and saying yes, I'll put my hand up and I'll volunteer for implementing the biomedical fascism. So we choose which group we join. It's us that creates the division. And that's basically, the other thing as well is that when we choose the righteous path, there are going to be other people who resent our choice. They don't like it. Again, it's very, very similar to the people who get triggered when I talk about the Bible. They just go, and you'll seen this yourselves. If you've mentioned God, Jesus, some people, they just lose their minds and fly off into some sort of like demonic rage, which is interesting. So again, the crucial thing to think about here is who creates the division. So I've got another Bible verse. This one is from the Gospel of Matthew. So this is the words of Jesus Christ in chapter 13, beginning in verse 24. So it says here, Jesus said, "Here is another parable that he put before them. The kingdom of heaven is like this. A man sowed his field with good seed. But while everyone was asleep, his enemy came, sowed darnel among the weed," that's like weeds, and made off. When the corn sprouted and began to fill out, the darnel could be seen among it. The farmer's men went to their master and said, "Sir, was it not good seed that you sowed in your field? Then where has the darnel come from?" This is an enemy's doing," he replied. "Well then," they said, "shall we go and gather the darnel?" "No," he answered. "In gathering it, you might pull up the wheat at the same time. Let them both grow together till harvest, and at the same time I'll tell the reapers, garner the darnel first and tie it in bundles for burning, then collect the wheat into my barn." So it wasn't God that created non-player characters. It wasn't God that created that division. It was a free will choice. There's another parable that really brings this home. So this is actually earlier in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 13, begins in verse 1. "So that same day Jesus went out and sat beside the lake where so many people gathered round him, that he had to get into a boat. He sat there, and all the people stood on the shore. He spoke to them in parables at some length. He said, a sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seed fell upon the footpath, and the birds came and ate it up. Some seed fell on rocky ground, where it had little soil. It sprouted quickly because it had no depth of earth, but when the sun rose, the young corn was scorched, and it had no root in it, and it withered away. Some seed fell among thistles, and the thistles shot up and choked the corn. And some of the seed fell into good soil, where it bore fruit, yielding 100-fold, or it might be 60-fold or 30-fold. If you have ears, then hear. The disciples went up to him and asked, why do you speak to them in parables? He replied, it has been granted to you to know the secrets of the kingdom of heaven, but to others it has not been granted. For the man who has will be given more, till he has enough and to spare, and the man who has not will forfeit even what he has. That is why I speak to them in parables, for they look without seeing and listen without hearing or understanding. There is a prophecy of Isaiah which you will hear and hear, but never understand. You will look and look, but never see. For this people have grown gross at heart. These are like NPCs. Their ears are dull and their eyes are closed. Otherwise, their eyes might see, their ears hear, and their heart understand, and then they might turn again, and I would heal them. But happy are your eyes because you see, and your ears because they hear. Many prophets and saints, I tell you, desired to see what you now see, yet never saw it, to hear what you hear, yet never heard it. You then may hear the parable of the sower. When a man hears the word that tells of the kingdom but fails to understand it, the evil one comes and carries off what has been sown in his heart. There you have the seed sown among the footpath. The seed sown on rocky ground stands for the man who, on hearing the word, accepts it at once with joy, but as it strikes no root in him, he has no staying power. And when there is trouble or persecution on account of the word, he falls away at once. Again, this is for me describing the behaviour of NPCs during the People's Pantomime. When the going got tough, the NPC revealed their true colours. Anyway, Jesus carries on. He says, the seed sown amongst thistles represents the man who hears the word, but worldly cares and the false glamour of wealth choke it, and it proves barren. So again, that would be somebody who, on my YouTube channel, who says, well, I couldn't do this. I couldn't make a stand against biomedical fascism because, then they make some sort of excuse. I couldn't have paid my mortgage or whatever it was. So basically this is the type of person that Jesus is referring to here, is that their worldly cares and the false glamour of wealth stop the seed of truth from establishing itself in their lives. Anyway, Jesus continues, but the seed that fell into good soil is a man who hears the word and understands it, who accordingly bears fruit and yields 100-fold, or it might be 60-fold or 30-fold. So again, the big point to bring out here is that who creates the division? We have free will, and it's up to you what you decide to do with that free will. Whether you're all of us have a physical body, and there's a spirit that resides within us, and that's either with Jesus or it's with Satan. And it's 2020 kind of revealed the divisions within society. So it doesn't, as I say, I don't think there's any mileage in calling an NPC an NPC. it's not going to mean anything to them because they don't have eyes to see or ears to hear. It's an irrelevance. The only other thing that I'll say too is that it's important, that we tell the truth, that we speak the truth. So, for example, if I see an apple, I should call it an apple. If I'm referring to an NPC, then we all know what I mean. And an NPC is an NPC. It's not something that's like made up. This thing actually exists. So a couple more Bible quotes about speaking the truth. So from the Old Testament, Proverbs chapter 12 verse 17. He who speaks the truth tells what is right, but a false witness deceit. So we shouldn't pretend that NPCs are anything else, anything other than an NPC. There's nothing wrong in describing what is as it is. Like, if you've got the number 5, what is it? It's the number 5. It's just an objective fact. Chapter 12 verse 22 from Proverbs. Lying lips are an abomination to the Lord, but those who act faithfully are his delight. And then from the Gospel of John chapter 8 verse 32. Everyone knows this one. And you will know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. So yeah, as I say, I don't think it's a good idea to necessarily go out of your way to kind of insult NPCs, because it's pointless, just like talking to a brick wall. But I think it is perfectly okay when you're talking to, I don't know, like all the people watching this video will understand what NPCs are, and I don't think any of us would deny the existence of non-player characters, of repeater stations. This is people that are more obsessed with a new leasehold BMW every 3 years, and they'll just happily comply with evil. These people exist, and we should call a spade a spade. We should call an NPC an NPC, and it doesn't cause divide and rule, because we're not even talking to these people and referring to them as NPCs. But it's a useful, language is a useful tool, isn't it? It's a tool of expression, and an NPC, I think, is a useful tool of communication, rather than just as a, just to try and wind people up. And that's all I want to say today. So God bless.